First of all, I want to apologize for blinding you. I don't know why TapTap doesn't have a dark mode. Anyway, Undecember, an interview from a few days ago. Huge, long interview. We're not going to go through everything. I'll definitely link it in the description if you want to go through the whole thing. I made some highlights here, and we're going to go over those highlights now. All right, one of the first questions is Hack and Slash has a lot of repetitive content, so I tend to add randomness to reduce boredom. What's the randomness of Undecember? He answers the core value of Undecember is farming, and I think there are quite a few random elements related to farming. If you look at them broadly, you can see them as items and runes. Currently, there are 11 types of items that could be equipped, and there are additional items for the user to farm. The beta test is being prepared for the farming. They're going to test farming, basically. I don't know what that translation is. This is all translated from Korean to English, by the way, so some of this might seem pretty weird sounding. On the other hand, the number of options running on an item is quite large, and I think it'll take a while to find the items that are suitable for your build and the options you want there. Okay, so basically he's saying that like the number of attributes that you can get on an item is going to be a huge amount of different attributes that you can get, so it's going to be really hard to actually get the perfect god roll or whatever you want to call it for your build. So it's going to be a lot of farming, and you're probably not going to get too bored with it as long as there's some fun end game content. And he says in addition to dropping, the process of making them or crafting items is included, and of course you can just go and hunt monsters and that sort of thing. So crafting and all that stuff in there as well. The next question is about classes and the fact there are no classes. He says there is no class, but it can be said that this is the extent of a job that clearly distinguishes it like a class, basically saying that you can make it into a class depending on your playstyle and the runes and skills that you pick up. The goal we are pursuing is not just relying on physical damage, even for melee characters, but we want them to attack in a variety of ways by mixing elemental attacks. Magic can also be an advantage to choose according to your taste, such as mixing various elemental attacks. So this is interesting. So he says that even for melee characters, they don't really want the physical to be the focus, which I think is going to be not sounding good for people that really like playing those type of barbarians and stuff and don't even want to mess around with magic. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this works out. I mean, we've seen some of the videos and they've had some really interesting melee attacks like leap and whirlwind and that sort of thing. So the melee definitely looks decent. It's there, but yeah, hopefully they haven't. We'll see. We'll just have to see what happens. The last part here is mixing various elemental attacks. I wonder if that actually means like comboing, like in Diablo Immortal, for example. You could combo like your fire and your wind to make a different effect from your spells on top of each other. I don't know if that's what this means right here, but it'll be interesting. That would be interesting to see if it's actually in the game. And continuing on that topic, he goes and asks if you can actually freely reset or respec skills when you're developing a character. And he says, of course it's possible. And then down here at the end, he says you can reset any number of times until Act 5, but from Act 6 onwards, it requires a certain level of cost and plans to consist of items that can be acquired in game. So basically, you can respec for free up until Act 5 or until the end of Act 5. And then once you get to Act 6, it'll cost some sort of in-game item or currency. And it's cool that they mentioned the acts, so we know that there's at least 6 acts in the game now, so that's pretty cool. That sounds like a lot of content. It depends on how long the acts are. An act can be 5 minutes or 2 hours, who knows, but we'll see. It's good to know that there's at least 6 of them. That's nice to know. And here's a question about seasons. If you're unfamiliar what seasons are, basically in games like Diablo and Path of Exile, there's seasons where you have to start a new character. You can't use any old characters. Sometimes there's like new mechanics or new content also added in there. But so he's asking if there's going to be seasons, and he says, we thought and approached it a little differently. I wanted to make Undecember a game with continuity. As a user who has played and enjoyed seasonal games, it's fun to develop new ones every season, but I also felt the pressure of starting from scratch. Therefore, Undecember does not introduce a season system. I plan to make the character continue to grow without reset after service, which is, in my opinion, the better way to go. Even when they introduced seasons in Diablo 3, I was not a big fan personally, and I just like to play the same character and keep building on the same character. And to me, actually, seasons are actually a little bit of a lazy way to develop. It's like, because you're just reusing old content. If you actually spend the time to add new content to the game, you don't need a season, because you can just play the same character and keep growing and leveling without really running into any walls, as long as you're putting out new content. But that's just my opinion. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you guys prefer seasons, or if you prefer to just focus on one character and get new content and keep going with that character. Of course, there's no classes in this game, so you can play with different builds and stuff like that. And yeah, I feel like there's probably never going to be a reason to ever have seasons in this game anyway. Next question is there a function to assist when playing on a mobile platform? And what is the internal impression of each platform? Considering the issue of equality between platforms, we try to exclude as much as possible anything that benefits a specific platform. Instead, there are device limitations for each platform, so the operation of mobile and PC is different. Mobile is a device that will eliminate the fatigue of repetitive actions, so Smart Control is introduced. Smart Control is a function that automatically uses the main skill and can be turned on and off. Undecember has no skill cooldown except for some skills, therefore it is expected that the fatigue of repeatedly pressing or continuously touching the main skill can be partially resolved. In addition, operations such as movement must be done manually, so I hope that you understand it as a method of emphasizing the convenience of manual battle that is different from the existing automatic battle method. Okay, so interesting. They're basically talking about auto. And from what it sounds like, these translations are kind of rough, but from what it sounds like is that there's going to be a way to auto use your normal attack, like your basic attack, and that's it. I'm not sure. We're going to have to wait and see. It's just a couple days until beta, but I'm definitely going to be testing both on mobile and PC, by the way. So I will let you guys know if there's anything weird with this Smart Control function and any differences between the two platforms. But yeah, sounds interesting, and we're going to keep our eye on that one. Next question. Is there any challenging content besides raids? The content that becomes the main stage when farming is Chaos Dungeon. First, the reason for supporting cross-platform is portability of mobile. It's a structure that does not take a long time to farm, so I use mobile a lot when I do it for a short time. You can enjoy farming through solo play in Undecember, and you can think of cooperation and competitive content as a bonus, basically, rather than the main content of the game. So what it sounds like, the main method of farming in this game will be running Chaos Dungeons, which I believe we saw in a video. I think there was a timer on there that said 4 to 6 minutes or something like that, so they don't take long to finish. I'm sure you can finish them faster if your build's good enough and stuff like that. So that's going to be the main thing, which is basically, I think, like rifts in Diablo. And yeah, interesting that he mentions that co-op and competitive content is basically the side thought here. Developing with Unreal Engine 4, how much performance is required in both PC and mobile environments? As for the mobile environment, the Galaxy S8 is set as the minimum for Android, and for iOS, it's the iPhone 6s. The PC environment is not that high either. An i5 CPU with 8 gigabytes of RAM and a GTX 1050 can play the game smoothly. So for the Android users out there, Galaxy S8 is the minimum, which I believe is the Snapdragon 835. Correct me if I'm wrong. So you're looking at a minimum device as a Snapdragon 835. So if you guys make sure you get your phone upgrades out there, if you're looking to play Undecember, make sure you're getting better than 835, or you might be in trouble. Some hack and slash games provide content such as hardcore mode. Is there similar content in Undecember? I personally want to put it in, but I don't know how it'll turn out because there is a lot of internal opposition. At the time of launch, we have no intention of supporting it. However, if we think that it is necessary content through user communication in the future, we will consider that part and include it. So you hear that? If you guys are fans of hardcore mode in your ARPGs, you better speak up that user communication and let them know that you want hardcore in the game. Personally, I like to mess around with hardcore. It's not my go-to, but yeah, if you guys want hardcore, make sure you let them know. They will maybe put it in the future. But as he says here, it's not going to be there at release. So that was the last question we're going to cover here. But one thing I want to show you guys, and one thing that stood out to me, is the number of times he wanted to stress that solo play is actually the main focus of the game. He's 5 different mentions of solo play in this game, or in this interview. So yeah, Undecember is a solo play first. I guess that's their main focus, which actually is really surprising to me. It did, like with the GVG and the raids and all the PvP and stuff, I actually thought it was going to be more like an MMO type of focus, but he's really hammering it down that solo play is their focus, and I think there's some people out there that will be happy about that. I know a ton of people that actually were complaining that Diablo Immortal was going to the MMO route because they prefer playing their Diablo game solo. So those of you guys out there, Tony, I know you guys will be happy to hear that Undecember is going for the solo focus here. So that's one thing I did want to mention real quick, because that surprised me. I actually thought it was going to be an MMO type game. Anyways, yeah, that's all that we're going to cover from this interview. We got some nice, interesting information. Acts 5 and 6. We know there's at least 6 acts, and in a couple of days we got beta coming. So I'll let you guys know as soon as possible how you can access the beta if it's possible. So make sure you like and subscribe and all that stuff. Make sure you are following on social medias. I will let you know ASAP. But for now, thanks for watching, and see you next time. GG's.